We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Fun half. Emma Vigeland. Sorry. Just working through it, folks. Northwest Car Hater. Happy Tuesday, MR Crew. Can I get a shofar for my first performance at Carnegie Hall that went incredibly well this last Sunday? Oh, that's exciting. What was it?
Big deal. Big effing deal.
Brandon Tartikoff. Sam, now that you've gone viral and are appearing all over, I wanted to give you a tiny piece of constructive criticism and correction. Please bear in mind, I've been listening to the Majority Report since Air America and watching Break Room Live. Oh, geez. And I've been a member since the Cernovich incident. Why did it take you so long? That was literally 6 years after we started the show. 7 years after. Almost 8 years. Cernovich incident. As a listener, every few months I have to run to look for the word resent. Not the verb, but the noun form, the way that Sam says it. I've always understood the noun form of the verb to be resentment. I am sorry to report to Sam that I have never been able to find resent as a noun or a substitute for resentment over all these years. Sorry, Sam. In the interest of your burgeoning pundit career, I think it's time to retire this verbal tick. First off, Brandon Tartikoff, I have resent that you did not join this podcast until we were in year 8. 2017 was late in November 28th. I mean, it was December of 2017 when the Cernovich thing happens. You enjoyed me on Air America and on Break Room Live. That ended in 2008 or 9.
Listen to thousands of membership appeals.
Secondly, I also harbor resent because I know you've written this before. In fact, I know over the course of the past 10 years that I've heard this before from at least you. I don't know what moniker you were using at the time. Or did I say that right? Moniker? Monacle?
Hey, so
nomenclature?
You haven't addressed the factual accuracy of Brandon Tartikoff's I am.
Look, I have pitched myself to Grammar Girl 3 times and have never heard back. Is that podcast still around? I don't know.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Maybe that was around like a
early podcast.
Early podcast. Okay, so it's resentment. It just takes too long.
Well, I just can't even.
Elon Musk. Sam, you should invite Ezra Klein on for sure, but make sure you invite Cenk and tell him to bring the beer. I almost tweeted out after meeting with, after doing the PBD thing, that I was not having a beer.
Well, it's funny because someone found, and I didn't even remember this, because Trump proposed the $1 trillion military budget, and Cenk had tweeted at me like in November, my politics haven't changed at all. I want to cut the Pentagon for 20 years. Do you not want to cut it because Elon or Trump does, if they really do? And the point is that the Democrats are not responsive to their base, and MAGA responded to our policies before they did. That's him saying that MAGA was more receptive to cutting the military budget than the Democrats. Flash forward to today. Trump has proposed a $1 trillion with a T dollar military budget.
I mean, it would have been like us in 2020 saying, come on, everyone, get on board with everything Biden's doing because he said he wanted a public option.
Right. I mean, to be honest, that's generous because this is Trump, too. This is Trump, and we already had an administration with Donald Trump in office. So the idea that now 2.0, when he's more extreme and more unhinged, now's the time to take him at his word, is laughable.
We have that clip of him talking about the $1 trillion, if you just want to play it real quick.
Oh.
Yeah, let's do this. I mean, I'm shocked. I, for one, am shocked because I really thought that Donald Trump was going to cut the military budget. And I'm also really shocked because he's a businessman. I'm surprised that he's doing this with tariffs. And he also cares about the working guy unless they're working in places like government where a lot of working class people work.
Or unless they're working at his hotels or his casinos or under him in any way.
I mean, I'm really surprised. There was no evidence that the Republicans would in any way increase the military budget. I mean, what about Tulsi Gabbard? She's great on all these issues.
She's very anti-war, I heard.
Yes. I'm really also surprised about the whole thing where he once again rolled back any restrictions that our military has in terms of killing civilians. I'm very surprised about that. Go ahead.
We have great things happening with our military. We also essentially approved a budget, which is in the facility, you'll like to hear this, of $1 trillion, $1 trillion. And nobody's seen anything like it. We have to build our military, and we're very cost conscious, but the military is something that we have to build, and we have to be strong because you got a lot of bad forces out there now. So we're going to be approving a budget, and I'm proud to say, actually, the biggest one we've ever done for the military. We have great...
Yeah, sounds about right. You know who he's sitting next to there when he says, you're going to like this? He's sitting next to the man committing a genocide at this current moment. Yes. Yeah, this was it, I guess. Not to make it about this, but it's just, I mean, it's just a bit of a joke. So, he said, my politics hasn't changed at all. I wanted to cut the Pentagon for 20 years. Do you not want to cut it because Elon or Trump does, if they really do? Although there's a caveat
That's
there.
a hilarious parenthetical.
And my point is that the Democrats are not responsive to their base, and MAGA responded to our policies before they did.
Again, like, to say that they're not responsive to the base, they are. Nancy Pelosi knelt in a kente cloth with a bunch of Democrats. That's just how they respond. And the truth is, like, the Republicans are even thinner in their sincerity towards particularly pro-worker or anti-war policies than the Democrats.
But also,
wait a second.
Yeah.
I want to know what secret X-ray vision you have, Matt, that you could tell this. How is it that you could see that from advance?
It's called
so far in advance.
It's called object permanence.
and an understanding of politics in the Republican Party. But he's also saying there that MAGA responded to our policies before they did. So that's an insinuation that MAGA, whatever that is, Donald Trump's administration, responded to progressive policies before the Democrats did?
In a campaign season? Wow.
Well, I mean, Lena Khan was a response to the Democratic base antitrust, and that was a good response to the Democratic base.
Joe Biden going to the picket line. Like,
yes,
they respond to their base. It's, you know.
It's not enough. It's
but
insufficient.
taking it as like this is what Glenn does too. Like any sort of signal that the Republicans are doing something, they treat as if it's completely like, oh, look at this, a new era is upon us, where they know, like, if a Democrat says something like, we support the PRO Act or something like that, well, we have to see how the follow-through is going to be.
Exactly.
And it's accurate to say that the Republicans are more responsive to their base than the Democrats. That's 100% true. And we're seeing what that looks like right now. Mass deportations, we're seeing people being taken without due process and thrown into El Salvador prisons. Like, that's the truth. But the idea that MAGA's responsive to the progressive base is one of the most hilarious things I've ever heard in my life. And it just got disproving with this $1 trillion budget for the Pentagon, which has failed an audit every year that I can think of going back. How long back does it go?
At least failed at least 9 audits. And they don't do it every year. They realize, like, well, maybe we need a little time to warm up. But yeah, there you have it. Very shocking. Very, very shocking.
And then these are going to be contracts to Elon Musk, by the way. This has already been announced.
We
Lockheed
talked about
Martin.
$6 billion just coming out of the Space Force. So
maybe there's also a budget there.
Oh, your mic's down.
Maybe there's also a budget item in there for occupying Gaza, which he also suggested in that press conference.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure that's in the real estate budget that they have, the capital investment. Here is, speaking of which, here is Donald Trump essentially touting ethnic cleansing. This is coming on the heels, and like I even saw CNN report on the essentially assassination of 15 EMTs in Gaza.
Buried them in a mass grave, and some of them had their hands tied behind their back in their bodies.
And let's, I'll just they found video, the phone of one of these EMTs. Apparently, the Israeli soldiers that assassinated these people, killed them in cold blood, didn't realize there was a phone, and he was recording himself throughout the whole thing, and it shows that the Israeli Defense Forces fabricated a total 100% lie as to how these people died and what they were doing at the time, and then buried them in mass graves. CNN, Jake Tapper played the report. It was, there was a real sense of begrudging and sort of like, it appears as if the story that the IDF told us was conflicts with a video of the entire thing.
We played yesterday the Fox News segment on it, which was better.
Yes.
Way better.
But it was fascinating how it was just sort of like set up. This minute by minute video of what happened contradicts the story of the IDF, as opposed to like the story from the IDF is obviously an abject lie.
I mean, they've been bombing hospitals for this 1.5 year long genocide. They, at the beginning, pretended like they were misfired Hamas rockets. Now they don't even pretend anymore. Nope. So, like, why are we taking, like, oh, they misrepresented? No, they're lying because they don't care.
The point is, they're between this and the starving of all sorts of aid to the Palestinian people, they are attempting to make it so unlivable there, both in like literally killing people, but that they are hoping that if they figure out a way of deporting people to other countries that will take them, that they will basically have an empty Gaza suitable to become the next, I don't know, Gold Coast of Florida, whatever it is. Here is Donald Trump.
It's an incredible piece of important real estate, and I think it's something that we would be involved in, but having a peace force like the United States there controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing, because right now all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day. That's a hell of a place. It's you know what I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in, because they really don't. And when they had good...
Pause it. Let's just be clear. Palestinians want to live there. Yeah, right. Palestinians want to live there. Many have stayed to provide services to their fellow Gazans and have risked their lives or lost their lives.
They want to stay there so badly that they are risking their death.
And they also want to live there without being bombed and shot at.
Right.
And,
although
attacked.
I should say that there was a smaller window of opportunity for people to escape, and it often had to come in the form of bribes to the Egyptian government on the southern side of the Israeli of the Gaza border. The people that are left there are still trapped in the open air prison. So, like, basically the Israeli government is giving them two options. We will ethnically cleanse you, or we will enact our final solution. And that's kind of what they're doing now. Apparently it's been like 30 days since food has gotten in, and the Israelis have taken 50% of the Gaza territory, starting from the south, from the Egyptian border this time. Rafah, they've just captured. So this is happening right now.
What I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in, because they really don't. And when they have good living, real living, where Hamas and all of the problems they have, the level of death on the Gaza Strip is just incredible. And I've said it. I don't understand why Israel ever gave it up. Israel owned it. It wasn't this man, so I can say it. He wouldn't have given it up. I know him very well. There's no way They took oceanfront property and they gave it to people for peace. How did that work out? Not good.
Is the immigration, sorry, Mr. President, is the immigration?
Israel never owned the Gaza Strip. They had occupied the Gaza Strip.
As a war crime.
Yeah, the reason that they left was not for peace, and it's so hard to see Netanyahu grinning as the person who's done all this destruction, as Trump talks about how now it's unlivable because it's so destroyed. But Israel withdrew from its occupation of Gaza in part because it was a hornet's nest, because it's such a small strip of land. And the IDF was having so many problems, so they figured, oh, we'll let them have their elections. And then they elected Hamas, and then now Israel has used the boogeyman of Hamas as a pretext for violence against the Palestinian people since that election. What, it was like 20 years ago at this point?
It was 20 years ago, and it was a unilateral move. They left the Gaza Strip, except for surrounding it, almost like the Warsaw Ghetto.
Yep.
And the idea was to further their strategy of making it impossible for a coherent Palestinian leadership to represent the Palestinian people. They knew that Hamas was empowered in the Gaza Strip, not at the least of which because Israel had been part of their policy was to empower Hamas.
Netanyahu said
as a way of preventing there being a unified national Palestinian movement, and that was their agenda. And to a large extent, it succeeded in that regard. So, but there it is. I'm going to. Should we take a couple phone calls? The phone number is 646-257-3920, 646-257-3920, 646-257-3920. If you want to be a part of this program, call in. Now, this has been fascinating to watch all the Trump supporters freak out about their holdings. We're seeing it in the context of like hedge funders who there's a lot of like marginal calls that are happening, or margin calls, I should say, essentially where they borrow money to bet on the market, and then things drop and their collateral is nowhere near where it used to be. And so the banks start to freak out a little bit. We're seeing this in private equity, where all of a sudden, like, the business outlook looks pretty bad, and people want their cash out of these private equity funds. Now, you know that something like 80% of the stock market is controlled by, I want to say, 10% of the people in this country, and then 40% of this country owns the remaining 20%. It's something to the effect.
I saw this yesterday. Top 1% owns, this is a little different, but top 1% owns 50% of all stocks. The bottom 50% owns 1% of all stocks. How about that for some kind of mirror?
Well, the Robinhood app is going to
statistic.
turn all this around any day now.
But nevertheless, the people who do own stocks, who are not in that 1% or even the 5 or 10%, it's their retirement accounts. That's what it is. They're not out there, you know, maybe there's a couple of people day trading. I doubt it. It's basically like their pensions in there, and they probably don't manage it. They're probably, you know, maybe it's self-managed, but for the most part, it's probably, you know, part of some big pension fund. And people are nervous because if you're anywhere near retirement, it took last time almost 6 to 8 years before the stock market got back to parity. And we are very close. For a lot of people, probably have lost a decent amount of their principal. As you get older, you can, play catch up in some of these things and put in an extra grand or two into your IRA. And people are probably panicked. I'll tell you who's not panicked. And this is what I find fascinating because I follow some of these people on Instagram. The finance people and stuff like that, and the people who are multimillionaires, like the PDBs, they're all preaching, don't panic. And part of the reason why they're not panicking is because they have so much money that they can afford to lose a certain amount of money because they get so much other assets that they can go in and buy the dip, as it's called. So this is an opportunity.
There's something called dry powder that these guys sit on where they can't find investments for it. But all of a sudden, everything becomes really cheap. Like in a recession, then you start going spending on that. Let's
check in on this guy. And what was the last thing he was pissed about that he was like breaking from MAGA from? I can't remember. But here is Dave Portnoy. Is he still own sports? What is it?
Barstool? I don't know. He's basically a personality for them now.
Here we go.
I went super viral when I said I lost $7 million. I'd kill to be back to losing $7 million. I haven't even looked. If I had to guess, I'm down in these last 3 days, probably close to 20. I don't know, like 10, 15% of my net worth, poof. But I'm still here. That's the game. That's what I'm in. Like, do I like it? No. Am I crying? Am I like, oh, woe is me. I wish I voted for Kamala. No. Do I wish this didn't go down like this? Yes. Am I in this to make money? Yes. Do I wish I had that money back in my investment portfolio? Yes. Or I went super.
Okay. So just to be clear, I'm no math whiz, but if you lost $20 million, and that was 10 to 15% of your net worth, you have somewhere around like $150 million to $200 million.
The myths of meritocracy right there.
So you've lost 20 million. So you either have, I don't know, 180 million to 130 million dollars left.
For all that hard work he did posting smoke shows.
And it's amazing how this guy is not out there, woe is me. Here he is. He thought he had 200 million and now he has 180 million.
Easy come, easy go.
So now all his plans to buy a small island, he has to buy a slightly smaller island now. Or whatever it is. Like, I mean, this is the point. Because he also knows that if he has $20 million in, something that is somewhat liquid, he will invest that in the market as it dips. And maybe in 6 years, maybe in 10 years, he's a young man. He's going to have that much more money because he bought it at that level. Or he just hangs on to those stocks because he also knows I have $180 million left. I'm not going to get kicked out of my apartment. I'm not going to have trouble paying my heat. I can send my kid, if he has a kid, I don't know, to whatever, private school I wanted to send him to. I mean, he doesn't have to change his life one iota. Not one iota. And they're so... He wants credit for not being out there whining.
He's a patriot. He's a patriot. He could have kept that 20 million and voted for Kamala, but he believes in the cause.
I believe in the cause. Look at what I'm doing. Sitting around here acting as if everything's normal because all I have now is $180 million.
Guys like this are the reason that our economy is a piece of garbage. And it's getting worse every day with those levels of speculation, which includes sports gambling. John Oliver did a great segment on sports gambling, and people should check it out. But, one of the top line studies he cites is that USC did this study that showed that bankruptcies increased 28% from 2018 to 2023 when looking at states that had legalized sports gambling on people's phones. And they were all over this, the Barstool guys. And now what he does is he's kind of an influencer as a day trader, and he trades in these enormous sums, and he's been very supportive of Donald Trump. And like crypto is a part of this too, where young men are going bankrupt at like higher rates and have way higher credit card debt than previously because of this stuff. And it's because of influencers like this guy and all these other crypto folks who are now in the Trump administration who are just speculators for speculators' sake. It can be over DraftKings on your phone, or it can be via Coinbase or whatever. But like, this is unsustainable because people's basic needs aren't being met. So they're looking for other ways to make quick cash. And there's a whole influencer space that he's a part of that's encouraging this.
We talk about a crisis in masculinity, and how is it a surprise when the models that young men have are people like Portnoy? And it, like Emma said, it's all about passive income. It's not about like doing a good day of work and then basically like fighting for your right to be empowered as a laborer. It's all, no, let's do some parasitical behavior, whether it's betting, whether it's crypto, whether it's the stock market. It's not actually doing work. It's passively taking money for nothing. And of course there's going to be a
it's also
crisis.
just about that number, right? Like,
Yeah.
again, like I've lost $20 million. I've lost 10, 15% of my net worth. Dude, you got 130 to $180 million. And you're out there like this is, and like, what is he building? This is the other thing, right? Like that the PBD people were talking about. Like, what is he building that society is benefiting so much from him making all this money?
The same thing Mark Zuckerberg bought, which is a place online where you can ogle women.
Yeah,
Like
that's how
smoke
Barstool
shows.
got started out.
But-
Smoke shows.
Like there's like, what are you doing when you're sitting there day trading or whatever he's doing to make more money? Like, how is that society? Where's the benefit to society that, like, look, I'm not suggesting that what we're doing here has a benefit to society. People can, decide for themselves. But I'm not justifying my making so much money that I can sustain a $20 million loss and just be like, I guess I won't be getting that rocket or whatever it is.
But it's the thrill. It's the thrill of trading in, like, sports gambling's a part of that. Millions of dollars, making bets. He famously goes to like the Super Bowl and puts $1 million on a game, or to like the college basketball championship and does that. And of course, he's like the kind of guy that's, I don't know, just trading like this. He's the guy that said that he would, quote, fire employees on the spot if they tried to unionize in 2015. When you bring up PBD, this is the same kind of people. And like, that's the era of them now. The robber barons at the top are giving license to these other people, and it's all built up from here, this influencer space that is also tied to the Trump White House too. Like, it's get yours. Screw people over, gamble, and take big risks.
You should be rewarded for owning the right thing at the right time.
Right. Like that's this, you know, when we're, as you say, we're talking about like, how do we bring back young men back into the Democratic Party? We have to talk about how this is snake oil. And it's also, like, in many ways antisocial and anti-humanist.
100%. You make a big crypto bag and you can go around and, like, I guess, eat at any restaurant and have their staff make whatever meal for you every night because what you bet on the Dogecoin at the right time. It's sickness.
It's not a coincidence that the manosphere and the Andrew Tates of the world are very closely interconnected with these kinds of people, and they're influencing young men and teen boys right now. It's actually a problem.
Just Taylor, have you seen Elon getting cyberbullied so hard he lost his stream connection? I've only watched it 14 times. We got to get that. Apparently, I read about that. He went on to some game and people were so mean to him that he quit in a rage
You
quit.
should have kept the chat off.
Ryan from Rochester, in my view, gambling is immoral because it's tolerated theft, but it's still just theft. If we can admit that the stock market is gambling, then we can't also admit that it's just systematically legitimized theft. All
thing about-
capitalism is just the same concept in one form or another.
The thing about the it's better than gambling because the house is stacked towards investors in a way that it's stacked against gamblers.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. This is the thing that that I don't know. I've never been terribly sophisticated about business or the history of business, but it definitely feels like there are people who make a product or in the past, or maybe now, who make a product, sell it for, what is a reasonable margin, and it's something they feel that people need. There's also people who make a lot of money in our economy seeking out an asymmetry in knowledge and selling that, whether it's like your odds of winning this bet are very, very slim, but we don't need to tell you that. This is the way you're going to get rich. Or that this crypto is really sort of a scam, but if you don't get it, it's perfectly legal. Or, for instance, like the multi-level marketing thing that PBD had. I'm in anticipation of that interview. I did watched a couple of videos on this, and even in their own public prospectus, I guess when they sold this, you could see that 80% of the people working for the company, or members. It was a weird relationship where you would basically. You would get to become a member of this organization and then go out and sell it, would make virtually something like 20% of the money. That there was a very small cadre of people who actually made money in this. But it was all about sort of that. That's just business. You didn't realize that there's this basement is full of water. When you bought the house, that's on you, chief. And, to some extent, you're supposed to have an inspector and this and that, but it's also sort of creepy. It's a creepy thing to do. And I don't know, different people have different sort of tolerances to what they're going to allow for their creepiness. But that to me is creepy. But that is that's just business. And once you have that mentality that that's just business, I mean, there's a reason why. Oh, the mafia people. I mean, it's sort of a hackney, but they're just it's just business. You understand that, right?
Right.
In other words, it's completely devoid of any type of moral.
Might makes right.
It's just I could do it, and so I did it.
And Trump, I mean, it's corny, but this kind of behavior it gets normalized by the leader of the country.
Oh, without a doubt.
And I remember growing up and thinking about who were my role models in politics or whatever, getting excited about Obama. And he's an integral part of our reactionary time period. Not excited about Obama anymore, but back in the day. People forget that he was the anti-war primary guy. That's how he hit Hillary.
Well, the Democrats certainly forgot.
Hey, what happened?
The Democrats forgot. That's the part of the other point I was making on PodSave. It might have been my best point that I made, because I just wanted to say, hey, when I was a teenager, that's how I got into politics, was Obama opposing the Iraq War, because I found it so outrageous. And the Democrats have to reckon with what they've done here to the brand of their party for entire generations.
Let's go to the phones. Calling from a 631 area code.
Hello.
Hello, who's this and where are you calling from?
Hi. My name's Kaitlin. I'm calling from Suffolk County, Long Island.
I knew you were from Suffolk County by the area code.
Unfortunately, it's a very red county.
Yes. Wait, is Swazi your rep?
I don't even know. They actually just redo the district lines a couple years ago.
Oh, right.
So I don't even think I'm in the first district or the second district.
Gotcha.
Actually called because I need some advice.
Sure.
My brother, he was so pro-Israel a few months ago. He had a friend from Israel. He couldn't believe that I was pro-Palestine. And we would fight all the time. I told him, we have to stop talking about it. You have to do your own research. And he did. And now he's telling me to read Mein Kampf. and it's taken a bit of a sharp right turn. And now he's completely anti-Israel, but in a very scary way, like not anti-Zionist.
But it sounds like he's anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
But it happens so quickly.
I mean, obviously, I don't think it's justified to blame Jewish people as a Jew for the actions of Israel. But one of the things that I have that is a danger to Jews is Israel committing genocide and saying it's in defense of Jewish people. It is, I don't personally even think it's in defense of Israelis, but it is certainly not at the behest
That's what
of
I'm trying
Jews.
to explain to him, because they're doing it in Judaism's name.
Right.
And they're synopsized, like they're making it seem like they're the same thing.
Yes.
Jewishness and Israel. And he kind of just lumped them all together. And I'm like, you went way too, you need to be more in the middle. Like, you went way too far on the other side. He was like telling me I was anti-Semitic. He went for me, who's pro-Palestine, being like, you hate Jews. And I was like, bro, no, there's a difference between Zionists and Jewish people. And it just quickly, after I was like, we were done with talking about this. We're not living in the same reality. You need to do your own research. And I think that's where
Can I ask?
Israel dug his own grave.
Yeah. Can I just ask a few things? One, like, what do you know? What media your brother is listening to? And two, are I'm assuming you guys aren't Jewish, but the area of Long Island has a lot of Jewish people there. It's also kind of part of why Nassau County was the first county to ban masks. And it was because they explicitly for the pro-Palestine demonstration, so people couldn't hide their identity. Like, does that play in here?
I'm not sure what media he watches. I'm sure it's very right-wing stuff.
How old is he?
He was like, he's 30. If I'm 32, he's 33, 34.
Someone just IM'd Ideal Paradox said, I just had this happen too. The guy had never heard of Not in My Name. So maybe, send him information.
Well, I had not known anything about anything until October 7th, which is literally Israel bringing everything to light and putting itself on, in the spotlight. And me being like, I need to know more about this because I need to know what side I'm on. So I did my own research, not in an anti-Semitic way. I didn't become an anti-Semite. I was able to learn the difference between a Jewish person and that there was a Zionism movement and everything. There were Jews way before the Zionist movement. So
about 5,000 years before.
Yeah. So I actually run a meme page online. So I would constantly get comments, Free Palestine, and I, out of sight, out of mind, just didn't really think anything of it for years. Like 10 years I've been running a meme page. And they just finally, October 7th happened, and I was like, whoa, I didn't even know that the two things had anything to do with each other.
Well, Small D Democrat writing, what does her brother's Israeli friend think of Mein Kampf? Yeah, like what happened there?
Well, I haven't asked him about that yet because I'm still in shock. Like, he's still, every time I see him, wants to talk about how Hitler wasn't that bad.
Oh, boy.
Like, yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Well,
ask him his media.
Find out his media in terms of like, showing him that there's a difference between Jews and Israelis. Send him, Not in Our Name, and also just like in Penn Station, was it, or Grand Central, the big protest that happened not that long ago. All
Jewish
Jews.
Voices for Peace. You can tell him that Colombia, one of the first groups that was banned.
I tell him.
Okay.
I know, Jewish for Peace. I know. Like I said, it happens so quickly that it's like,
this is
I'd be shocked if it wasn't Candace Owens, or someone on like Fuentes style thing. But I honestly think you need to find out that stuff. You need to do your best to say that's not a good thing. Actually, you failed in doing your own research. Here is an alternative source, and provide him with stuff.
Well, I guess it's dangerous when it comes to Israel to tell anybody to do their own research because once
there's a lot of bad stuff out there. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Well, it just goes. A lot of truth blends into the stereotypical tropes about like Jews owning the media, and like they do own a lot of the media, the Israel. So I think plays into a lot of their own.
Right. The difference between
destruction.
AIPAC versus Jews is really important, or the Israel lobby versus Jews. But like, this is unfortunately exactly what a lot of what we've been saying is some of what can happen when you conflate Zionism and Judaism, and the Israeli government is responsible for that because they think more anti-Semitism shields them and benefits the state of Israel because then folks think that it necessitates an ethno-state. And all
this festers as we point the finger at protesters of a genocide.
Right.
And deport them, disappear them. And I also try to explain the difference between the amount of propaganda that Israel pays for versus Palestine, who has no fucking propaganda budget. And I'm like, you don't realize that you are just another victim of being susceptible to propaganda? Like, there's so many of you. Don't feel like stupid.
Well, it sounds like your brother, if he was pro-Israel before and is now an anti-Semite, is susceptible to some pretty racist, reactionary content. And I'm really sorry that you're going through that.
Well, my dad's a hardcore Trump supporter, so I'm pretty used to the hard topics at Thanksgiving dinner.
Oui. Well, you have, I guess, 8 months, 6 months to prepare for Thanksgiving. So enjoy. Appreciate the call.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Stay strong.
Oof.
That makes me very, very sad. The idea that we're of course in an extremely anti-Semitic time period, but like that.
ADL can't put a finger on it because they're preoccupied with other shit.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's a Trump supporter, and he's saying the Sig Heil at the inauguration, not a big deal.
Richest man does 2 Sig Heils, and it's like, well, it's a tense time. Let's be open to it. But by the way, here's Betar pointing fingers at protesters to get them deported.
And you also can see how some of our biggest anti-Semites in politics are also biggest Zionists.
David Duke, even, I think.
Richard Spencer has said that he idealizes Israel because it maintains its ethnic supremacy, ethnic and religious supremacy by force. They put walls up. They keep the hordes out of people. So they wouldn't want Jewish people in our country, but they admire the idea that Jewish people have their own nation state.
Let's look in on the trade hearings to change topic for a moment. I imagine we'll have more clips tomorrow too, right? There's probably been a lot of stuff that's happened. But Ron Wyden, I don't know if he's the ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee, at least on the Democratic side, but here he is asking the trade representative, Jameson Greer, like, what's the plan here? What was like, did you guys think that nobody would respond to this? And why wouldn't a country respond to a 54% tariff on their goods that seemingly has come out of, that is completely willy-nilly? Go ahead.
You want as we enter into these negotiations.
What's the status of China? As you know, that's a big market for us in the Pacific Northwest. What's the status of discussions there? I don't see much progress. What I see is it looks like it's going to escalate some more and hurt our consumers and our small businesses in our part of the world.
Well, Senator, unfortunately, China for many years seems to be choosing its own path on market access. Again, they have agency in this. They elected to announce retaliation. Other countries did not. Other countries signaled that they'd like to find a path forward on reciprocity. China has not said that, and we will see where that goes. I think we need to work with our closest friends to make sure that we have trading arrangements that work. And if the Chinese are open, we'll see what. But they haven't signaled that at all. So I don't think that's in the very near term with China.
I just am concerned that there's no strategy at all. I'm committed. We understand in the Pacific Northwest what the stakes are. To have a smart, tough strategy. I don't see any strategy at all, and you really haven't said much about what the strategy is this morning.
Well, that's about as accurate as you can get. Summation of it. I mean, to say Oh, the we punched the biggest kid on the block in the face, and this guy had the temerity to put up his hands and say, "I'm going to punch you back." I mean, they didn't have to do that. And okay, aside from the fact that China reacted in the most predictable manner possible, did you have any plan for that?
Yeah.
No.
They thought they could bully China. They thought they could bully the other economic powerhouse in a increasingly multipolar world.
The place that's actually building things.
Right. You thought you could bully China economically? Like, the only way we get to bully any people anymore is with our military, basically.
I mean, look, we have instituted 10% tariffs on China that started under the first Trump administration. The Biden administration expanded it slightly into specific areas. And you come to agreements with countries. You say, we need our own chip manufacturing for national security reasons. Hem and haw. We'll give you this, we'll give you that. You make what you call a deal, I guess.
And that would also, you could just keep the CHIPS Act in place and then maybe do tariffs in that way, because
it's all just sort of spite out of Trump's. I mean, it's just so ridiculous.
He wants to undo well, he hates Biden way less than Obama, so maybe he does keep some parts of the CHIPS Act in, but and we all know why that is. But like, that would make sense with tariffs, right? If you were to have an industrial policy and build up our capacity to make semiconductors here domestically, and then increase tariffs on imported semiconductors, but you would first have to develop that capacity. Like, it's just insane what because it's not meant to be a trade policy or an economic policy. It's about Trump consolidating power and everybody having to come to him. That's what he wants. Let's cut a deal. I'm the deal maker, the art of the deal. But he doesn't understand fundamentally like what a trade deficit even is. I think when he says something like China has agency, like that's what they resent. Yes. They have resentment towards that. And like Peter Navarro wrote a book about confronting the dragon, and it was all about China. Peter Navarro is the point man on these tariffs. I think like what they're doing is they want to sink China, and they are willing to put the world economy through a massive amount of pressure to do so. The problem is that they're not going to sink China. Yes, I agree with that. The problem is that they don't seem to have updated their numbers, because this is not 2004. Like I said, China's exports to this country amount to 12% of what they export. I think they're going to be able to make that up in other parts of the country. I mean, of the world, I should say. Play this clip of Maggie Hassan. Here is Jamieson Greer essentially saying that, like, we're not going to stop no matter what happens here. Now, I guess sort of outlining the fact that you're willing to have 10% inflation in the country indicates to other countries that we don't care what happens to our economy. We're doing this, and it might be a negotiation stance. But again, this isn't even contemplating. This is just contemplating what happens from the tariffs that Trump imposes. This is not contemplating what happens if China basically says, hey, you can push back on this and we can come to a new arrangement in terms of trade, because the other part of this is that we're looking to sell stuff to other countries. And so they could put up higher trade barriers and destroy businesses and industries in this country. Farmers, for instance. And then it just becomes a series of bailouts. This is fascinating.
Sales tax is increasing prices for families. It's also causing huge losses in Americans' retirement savings. Ambassador Greer, would the administration reverse course if the president's tariffs led to 10% inflation?
Senator, the president is fixed in his purpose. This trade deficit and the offshoring and loss of manufacturing jobs is something that's persisted for too long, and it's dangerous.
I understand your justification for the policy, even though there are some very contradictory justifications coming out of the administration. But my question is, what's the inflation rate where you guys would reverse course? 10% inflation that I just asked you about, that is higher inflation than we saw at the peak of the COVID economic crisis. But you aren't going to say here today that you would reverse course even if you created inflation as high as we had at the peak of the COVID economic crisis.
I think the most serious inflation we saw was during the Biden administration. When we did tariffs in the first term, inflation went down. I just don't. It's not going to be a one-to-one. Inflation about how much money you're putting into the supply.
Well,
It's not about
let's just be
tariffs and
really
products.
clear that the Trump administration is here today to say that even if inflation hits Americans' pocketbooks at 10% because of these tariffs, then the Trump administration is still going to go charging ahead. So, Ambassador, would the administration reverse course if the president's tariffs caused a 50% stock market crash, which would hurt Americans' retirement savings even more than they've been hurt in the last 10 days or so?
Senator, the fundamentals of the economy are so strong. We had 228,000 jobs last month. We have 9,000 additional manufacturing jobs from
So
the month
again,
before.
your answer is even if the stock market crashes 50%, which is how much the stock market crashed in the Great Recession, you're not going to say here today that you would reverse course even if you crash the stock market and harm retirement savings as drastically as happened during the Great Recession in 2007.
Senator, your hypotheticals are not consistent with the history we have seen with the use of tariffs.
My hypotheticals are based on the fact that a lot of Americans are looking at their 401ks today and wondering how much of a lifestyle change they are going to have, or whether they're going to be able to retire when they plan to, because of the recklessness and haphazard nature of the Trump administration's imposition of tariffs. Nothing was thought out about this. This has been a haphazard, incompetent effort, and it's showing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I mean, that's the point. Again, certain tariffs can work in certain contexts if you have some type of larger plan. But this just seems to be, we're going to do it and see what happens. And that's why you can't find two different administration officials who are saying the same thing about it. Even now, even like a week later, they still have not been able to get on the same page because, I mean, Trump just must be just sitting up there, rolling around on his bed and literally just like, do this. There's no plan. They don't even have the same spin on the whole thing.
It's robots, and you're going to have jobs replacing the robots? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just also facts that the Biden administration, I saw Crystal, a friend of the show, tweeted this out, had the strongest manufacturing recovery since the 1950s. Can't find the source for this graph, so we don't need to put it up, but I trust Crystal, and it matches other data that I've seen.
It was okay. The manufacturing grew significantly.
Yeah.
Manufacturing jobs grew under Biden.
I'm just being extra careful just because we don't have it. But yeah, I mean, this is exactly the data that we've seen, is that it grew under Biden. And that's because it was paired with a serious effort at industrial policy. Chips, which didn't go as far as I wanted in many ways that we wanted it to, right? It's a lot of subsidies as opposed to more centralized state planning, but it still did help create manufacturing jobs. It's just a fact.
All right, let's do this one last one. Should we do this robots one?
I kind of want to, you want to do a fun one with Loomer?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Let's do the Loomer one and then I'll take a phone call.
So Laura Loomer is... She's an influencer now.
She's back in the
cashing
saddle. She's back in the saddle. She was able, of course, as look, I mean, we're in the same business. She has a YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel. We, during the Biden administration, we were able to get half a dozen top national security people fired after being invited to the Biden White House. Right. Went in. Checked out what was going on. Hey, what's up, everybody? And then, I mean, can you imagine any president inviting anybody like us or similarly situated. And I mean, look, I can understand input. I mean, I think we were invited to go to the Biden White House.
We
for something.
were?
I think so. There were overtures made, and I was like, I'm not interested
Hell
in that.
no.
I would have went.
I know. Well, I mean, if it,
Maybe I would have gone and had a plan, but didn't they kick out that influencer that confronted him about Palestine? Anyway, not the ones that didn't confront him stayed.
this is pre October 7th. This is like early on in the administration, and I just like, if there isn't like a big food, like I'd just rather go to like a good buffet. I'll do that, but
Take another cruise.
But the idea that we could go in and just be like, we want these 7 people fired, and then they would fire them the next day would scare the hell out of me. Like, you're not even going to contemplate. Like, you're just going to fire them based upon what we say.
And she's like she lost a congressional primary, a Republican primary in Florida. She was too crazy for Florida voters.
Well, I mean, but to be fair, she also changed herself to the front door of Twitter back in the day as a way to protest her, I guess, her deplatforming after she said something, I think, horribly racist or like
She said,
xenophobic.
we need to stop, we need a new ride-sharing service where they don't let Muslims drive.
Okay, there you go.
She had also said that if Kamala wins, the White House will smell like curry. So,
anyways, Mike from Bavaria says, imagine what you could have done to the White House toilet. Fair.
It's old plumbing, too.
Yep. But here she is, and what is this a clip of?
I hate this.
What is this specifically? What was this released for?
Oh, this is an ad for her newest venture.
Oh, okay, here it is. After it's if you want somebody fired, she'll come in. No, go ahead.
Breaking news. Laura Loomer has been canceled. The President of the United States has refused to take her phone calls as he suspects she is soon to be arrested.
Is Laura Loomer the most hated person on planet Earth? We want to hear from you, the listener, and get your opinion on whether or not...
Man, I tell you, I heard she got canceled. We coming for you, bitch. We coming to your house, Laura Loomer. We know where you live. We coming for you right now. We coming for your friends. We coming for your friend's little dog.
Frankly, I hope they throw her away for the rest of her life. I hope she dies.
She is currently on the run from authorities. She is described as armed and dangerous.
I just can't believe she's been getting away with it for this. An angry mob appears to be forming outside the home of journalist Laura Loomer.
What is wrong with you? Why are you not panicking?
Because I called Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, and I learned how adding gold and silver to my portfolio is one of the safest ways to not just grow my finances, but to also protect them from the uncertainty of the future. So I'm fine.
Call economist Kirk Elliott at 720-605-3900 or schedule a call online at kepm.com.
Wait, who's that woman sitting with her?
That's
her best friend.
Yeah. Duh. That's her closest friend. Also, why did she keep eating the popcorn? I was wondering.
Popcorn.
Right, I got it.
She's just sitting there. That's fantastic.
This is a good show about me.
Why did they dub it? Did they just? Oh, they needed to like. Because she wasn't saying that in real time, was she? Or maybe they're just.
There was a weird sonically going on because it had like the nails on a chalkboard style, like screeching underneath the.
Get your opinion on whether or not.
It sounds like sort of like if you could have put a microphone in hell, and then they stop it right as she speaks. I think to try to make her voice seem a little bit more pleasing than it would be if it hadn't been preceded by just nails on a chalkboard.
I just find it funny that, one, she thinks that the news is constantly covering her and she just can't escape. No one cares. Two, that this is the person that they cast as the least believable friend. I'm sorry, but Laura Loomer, I just have my doubts. Also, Laura Loomer's pretty young. She doesn't look it, but she's gotten some facial reconstruction.
Risa says that whole thing was AI.
Laura Loomer's performance.
Off mic.
Laura Loomer's performance definitely seemed AI, like until the very, very end.
Okay.
Is the friend AI? No.
I wonder if the whole
part is
thing
AI?
is AI.
Like that part looks AI.
It's not though. AI. They would just film that. I feel like.
But she's selling.
This is AI.
This is AI. The woke mob that's outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say like.
Also, that looks like January 6th.
If that happened, I don't think precious metals are going to.
Yeah. Why is the woke mob just all white guys?
Woke Loomer.
Wait, go back to that woke mob for a second.
Is that just Laura's neighbors?
Zero in on it. Like, wait, who? This looks like a fraternity.
That's Laura's neighbors upset she has a black person in her house.
Yeah. Also, they literally have tiki torches. It's the guys from Charlottesville who've come to be. They like want Donald Trump to say something nice about them.
They got tiki torches in the middle of the day, and can you zoom into that a little bit? Go full screen on this.
Okay.
I mean,
we are full screen on the monitor.
Oh no, I mean on that in the video in there. Can't you move that yeah, right there. I mean, look at that. It does just look like all the guys from Charlottesville, and maybe.
What's going on with this guy?
That guy, he's just tasting the paint, just licking the paint.
There's another one on the left.
Are they dancing? What are they doing? They're not making any forward progress.
There you go. I guess that's the media. I mean, nobody has anything other than tiki torches.
Anyway, that's to sell precious metals in case the woke mob comes for you.
Yeah. It also could be an indication of what's going to happen to the economy now that they're imposing these tariffs. So,
bunch of traders.
Calling from a 252 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Oh, is this me?
It is you.
This is James from North Carolina. How do I sound? And I can be particular about.
James from North Carolina. You sound fine. What's on your mind?
Perfect. So first off, first time caller, poggers for all of the Twitch watchers.
Poggers.
Hey, thank you. Yes. So I guess I wanted to call because I have I had this all worked out in advance.
You're doing great.
I would like. I have an idea for a strategy that I kind of would like to get out there. Plan is better than no plan, and so the issue that we're having, one of the issues, there are a lot of issues, but one of the issues we're having is the rise of authoritarian and fascism. And the exact, the antidote to that, or the opposite of that, is an increase in participation, an increase in small d democracy.
Right.
And one of the things that other places have done that the United States has not done is expand small d democracy in a way that actually represents the will of the people more accurately. Like, for example, we get presidents going into office saying that they have some sort of a mandate, and then they make up whatever they want because of whatever their base voted, whatever they think their base votes for.
Okay.
And we got.
All right. Well, let's dispense with the preface. What is it you're proposing?
Right. Fair enough. I think one of the things, and it's not something that could be done quickly, but it needs to be something that. Well, all right.
Just tell us.
So the idea is, federal referendums, federal or national referendums, giving the people the ability to actually vote on law or on potential amendments, because when you look at polling, a whole lot of progressive or left-leaning policies are way more popular with the public than the people in office would make it seem.
Yeah.
And if you start and because when we look at places like, Australia a couple years back, they legalized gay marriage via referendum. So did Cuba. And, obviously the political climate right now in the United States is not very conducive to making it happen, but you have to start talking about it to get any progress to begin with.
Well, it's an interesting idea. I would be concerned about the role of money in the context of our politics because it's pretty dramatic. And it would be, on some level, like listen, we have that obviously on a statewide level already. And so I think it's not like it's a completely foreign thing. And I guess, the question is, how would you go about it? What would be the threshold to get something on a ballot, and how would you keep money from being, overly influential in it? Although I think, there's an argument that people are so jaded at this point as to the role of money.
Sure, but I would say it's a lot easier to control politicians, or at least to sway politicians with money because they're individuals, than it is to sway, the entire populace.
On its face, I haven't heard that idea in a long time, and on its face, I'm not necessarily against it. But it's something to consider. The bottom line is, of course, that you're going to have to rely on Congress unless you are able to get a constitutional amendment to that effect, and that's going to be has a lot of problems in and of itself, frankly. So I don't know.
What do you mean?
Well,
what do you mean problems for that?
Well, to have a constitutional amendment, you need a constitutional convention, and you're going to open up. It's not just, you don't have one just on that. Basically anything can be brought there, and certainly, like I can tell you, the Koch brothers have been working on stuff like a line item veto. Now, of course, that also may be moot based upon like what the president's doing right now and whether the Supreme Court allows for it. But on principle, I'm not against it. But all right, you got one more. You got 30 more seconds to make the pitch.
Okay. Well, I would just say that it just at least as a talking point, it could be used to try and shift the narrative some. You start talking about issues. You talk about things like, Social Security and, what is actually being implemented. And you can bring up like, well, if there was a referendum, we could see what the people actually think about it. And we would see, polling shows it's popular. And if you wanted to try and hit against the right, you could try hitting and say like, well, they're just afraid to find out what the people actually think. They're afraid that they're unpopular and their ideas, like they're just trying to rule. They don't care about actually, representing their constituents and stuff.
Yeah, it may have some utility. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, thank you. Less is best.
Thank you.
Folks, it's 2:35.
See, Tim Heidecker announced a Austin, Texas show called Kill Timmy instead of Kill Tony.
Oh my God, is he doing it at the mothership?
I don't know. I doubt they'd let him do that.
Yeah,
but,
Kill Timmy.
Oh no, I have a feeling he doesn't quite get along with those guys. It's in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
That's direct. This is a part of his kind of series, right?
His genius of like through the on cinema at the cinema thing of like parodying right-wing sort of figures from like through like the Glenn Beck Blaze era to like the new Trump era is so fucking funny.
The Rogan podcast. I'm sorry to praise Heidecker so much on this show, Sam. I know that makes you upset, but
it enrages me.
The Rogan parody,
enraging.
And then, frankly, the Bill Maher Club Random parody with the different angles that were obstructed and all the alcohol bottles was some of my favorite moments of on the internet of the past few years. Certainly beats anything you've done.
Jesus, that was uncalled for. Somebody's obviously Heidecker's big money around here, sloshing around in one of his little slush funds that he does.
He funnels it through Soros.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. All right, let's read 10 IMs and get out of here. Nola Birdwatcher. Wow, a gummy already? It's going to be a great fun half. It's a focus gummy. Tim's Pool emotional support beanie. I really hope it's becoming clear to people how incompetent and infantile Trump is. I mean, you don't obviously don't mean around here. Maybe you mean in terms of like the rest of the country. You know, he's not doing so great in the polls.
Everyone's got Trump deranged.
But he's not going to. He's not going to drop below a certain amount either.
Trump or Elon?
Oh, Trump.
Oh, Trump. Yeah.
Bullprog telling federal workers to learn to manufacture. They're telling drop shipping and multi-level marketing should be safe, right?
Trump has, just sorry on that thought, Trump has a higher floor, I think, than some presidents and a really low ceiling. Higher floor. That cult isn't going anywhere. Low ceiling.
Yes, I agree with that.
Showed up in the elections that he won too.
Tippy tap toe. The thesis for the Trump administration seems to be, what if self-inflicted wounds are good, actually? Well, I mean, to be fair, we have had eras where, you know, for medical intervention that partly involved like bleeding out in certain instances, correct? Am I right about this? Mm-hmm. And so, you know,
bloodletting?
That's what we're doing in some way. We're letting the infection pour out of our body. It's just unfortunate that it also involves gallons and gallons of blood.
Yeah, should have probably used leeches instead of slitting our wrists.
You know what? We did. We did.
You know what? Everybody's an armchair quarterback.
And why not both? Bloodletting and then the leeches for, you know, Trump and Lutnick.
Let's just all decapitate ourselves.
Bingo dango. Elon Musk is getting subreddits critical of him in Tesla wiped off a Reddit. He sure seems to have a lot of free time to do petty shit for someone working 16 jobs in 50 hours a day.
Suppressing drop site news on Twitter too, apparently.
Oh, is that right?
That's what Ryan Grimm was saying.
I am just absolutely shocked by that.
I know, because he bought it because he loved free speech.
Rachel Frank, with their newfound enthusiasm for economic pain, I wish someone could get a hold of like some type of files that would exist behind like what's going on at X and expose it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like the X-Files, except for not the TV show.
Get Fox Mulder on the case.
Rachel Frank, with their newfound enthusiasm for economic pain, the right has managed to go past, I never thought the leopards would eat my face, into, I hope the leopards like the taste of my face.
It's interesting. I mean, maybe we'll do some more of this, but Megyn Kelly was on the whole, why is the left acting like they own stock all of a sudden?
It's fascinating. You know who was on talking about this was Scott Bessent saying like, you know, talking like a populist that, well, the problem is that, you know, not enough Americans own stock, so they'll suck it up.
Then why should we care about the stock market if it has no effect on the rest of the economy then?
Exactly. Skinar Korsky. I love when earnest callers start off with a long preamble to set up their ultimate point, which we may or may not ever get to. It's like academic writing. In this phone call, I'll attempt to convince you that, not a dig on the caller, it's just an amusing tick. Yeah. So when the trade rep questioned by Wyden said we need to talk with our friends about trade agreements, who exactly are our friends after all this?
The same sort of cope was the right wing was saying in Britain after they're like, we'll do Brexit, and after Brexit's over, we'll just negotiate with all the different countries. It's like, yeah. Okay.
How's that work?
Turned out it didn't happen, and all the small businesses got wiped out. So,
Rose as F. Ross as AF. Hey Sam, I read your book Fubar. Okay. I don't know where you found that, what bin that was in. It was mildly hilarious. I drew plenty of parallels between the Rapture Right and MAGA. Also, when's the new book coming out? No plans. I did not, it wasn't, I don't like writing that I don't get to like execute. Like, you know, it was one thing to write like stand up or write a movie that I could be in or write a sitcom and, you know, get a sense that I'm going to make this at one point. But just writing as an end thing, I just find like when the book was done, I just remember going like, it's so dead. The whole thing is just dead. It's not, I found it unpleasant, but who knows? Maybe someday.
You can go on podcasts if you read a book.
You can.
I know it. I know it's a good excuse to get on podcasts, but I go on podcasts. Maybe I'll write a pamphlet.
Podcast?
Maybe I'll write a pamphlet. Fenton Muley snaked mom. You take out all your money from the bank. Banks are running out of money. I mean, it never hurts to have cash on hand, in my opinion, in general. WTF Cody, that commercial was honestly kind of iconic. We coming for your friends, little dog. Laugh my ass. All right, 2 more, and then we're out of here. Crunchy. To be fair, Laura Loomer is what AI would give you if prompted with, what if the Exorcist demon spawn baby got scammed by a plastic surgeon in his 30s?
The Exorcist, the adult years.
And the final...
Oh my God, she's literally my age, 31. Oh my God. Same age. I mean, I'm 31 in 10 days.
Wow.
Same age. Yeah.
I mean, I guess...
Sometimes I think I look old because I used to do too much tanning, and now I feel better about myself after all that.
Like Jigsaw?
I don't. Hopefully not.
The final I am of the day, Worcester Dawn Draper. Emma funded by Big Heidecker.
That's the truth.
All right, folks. Matt, Russ, Emma, great job today, folks. See you tomorrow.